Welcome to Shavuot in the Kitchen. Many of you, thank you all for coming and joining us tonight. Many of you might have joined me with my Pesach in the Kitchen right before Pesach. It was quite fun, where I demonstrated how to make very symbolic foods for your Seder plate. Here's a quick recap, just to jog your memories. So good, I'm here watching it. We're safe. We're very safe here in the Friedman family. Okay, so the next item on the Seder plate is eggs, is the beitza. The beitza is, again, we remember another sacrifice. Remember the korban chagiga, the celebratory egg. Now it's interesting why we use an egg also. An egg is one vegetable that the more you boil it, the harder it gets. It doesn't get any softer. And that's how we Jews are. We Jews, no matter how much we take, no matter how much we can handle.
Someone says the fat from the fat from the meat will catch fire.
I got it. Thank you for your concern. We are on top of it. Okay. We have our Okay. Don't try this at home.
That's the point of this.
Right.
Mommy, the stick's on fire though.
You're right. There we go. But it's okay. We have a safety thing right here.
It's true.
The safety is that it just turns off. There we go. And we have a roasted lamb. I'm not entertaining my daughter. That was quite the show. Well, the cooking might have not gone as planned, but we hope that the focus was to provide you with a deeper meaning of those symbolic foods. So I wasn't going to try the cooking part again. I figured, you know what, let's bring in the professionals. And I brought in, we are lucky enough to have French chefs right here in our local Hampstead Garden suburb community, in our neighborhood right around the corner. And they will show us tonight on they're going to bake some dairy desserts, and very exciting to see that. But the question is, why do we eat dairy on Shavuot? You know, Shavuot is the holiday where we receive the holy book, the Torah. This is what we're celebrating right now. And so we should eat, the delicacies. We should eat the finest meat, the most expensive meat, and yet we eat dairy. What's the reason? So picture a basket. In the basket is a baby floating down the Nile. An Egyptian princess picks up the baby and falls in love with him. She brings him to nurse him, but he refuses to nurse from any of the Egyptian wet nurses. His sister, who is watching him from afar, asks the princess, can I bring him to a Hebrew midwife? Can I bring a Hebrew wet nurse so he can nurse? And the princess says, sure, let's try that. And so Miriam brings Yocheved, Moshe's mother, who would bring us to nurse him, and her son. The only milk of a Jewish mother could sustain the future Moshe Rabbeinu, who is the man who will bring us the Torah, and continue to bring us to the promised land. And so on Shavuot, when we remember the giving of the Torah, we recall the transmission of our heritage, that it depends on the care and nature of the Jewish mother. The cheesecake that we eat reminds us of the milk that Moshe's mother gave him, and the responsibility that we have to guard our children from the Egyptian culture and instill them with the Torah values. That's what Shavuot is all about. The message is to ensure that we pass down our values to our children. When we eat our cheesecake, our cheese blintzes, our lasagna, or our gratin de pommes de terre, we are passing the holy heritage to our children. And tonight, we begin with our first chef, Julie Mimouni, who will be demonstrating a crème caramel. Hello, Julie.
Hi. So I'm Julie. Tonight, can you hear me? Yeah.
I just want to introduce you, Julie, first. I'm just going to introduce you and tell you people who you are. So Julie actually she came from a business background and now is a professional chef. She worked in Barclays for 10 years as a management accountant, and before focusing on what she loves to do. Growing up right next door to her grandmother in France, she enjoyed learning all the different dishes that she created. They have a family business of restaurants, so it's in her blood to cook. And although her family appreciates all the efforts she puts into cooking, they prefer the simple foods, which allows her to have time to cook for others. And this is especially very noticeable during COVID, during the crisis right now. Julie has cooked every week for the vulnerable in our community, providing a 3-course meal for Shabbat. And so we thank Julie for that. So Julie will now be demonstrating a dairy dessert, and not your average one. We have a crème caramel. Go ahead, Julie.
Hi, so I'm Julie, and tonight I'm going to show you how to make a crème caramel, which is a perfect dairy dessert for Shavuot, if you just want to give it a change to cheesecake, or if you just want to add it to it. So it's quite easy to make and only needs 4 ingredients, which are milk, sugar, eggs, and vanilla extract. So to make the crème caramel, you'll need 1 liter of milk, preferably whole milk, just because it will give you a creamier texture, but semi-skim milk would work perfectly fine too. You'll need 350 grams of sugar divided in 2, so 175 grams to make the caramel and 175 grams for the custard. 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract that we're going to add to the milk. Oops, here it is. And 8 eggs that whole eggs that we're going to mix with the sugar. So first I'm going to preheat my oven to 180 degrees, and I'm going to turn the heating on for the milk. So we need to bring it to a gentle boil, and also for the caramel. So for the caramel, I'm going to put 175 grams of sugar into a little saucepan like this one, and just to a medium to high heat, but just keep a constant eye on it, because the milk can boil very easily and overboil, and the caramel can burn very quickly, so always keep an eye on it. In the meantime, I'm going to beat the sugar and the eggs very quickly, so either by using a hand mixer or just with a whisk. You don't need to beat it for too long. That's it. Here. So let's have a look. The milk is gently starting to boil. And for the caramel, so I'm just going to show you. Some people just add a bit of water in it, but it's not necessary, because to transform into a caramel, the water needs to evaporate first, so there's no need for it. So you just leave it like this. Try and avoid touching it with a spoon or a whisk or anything, because you can actually risk to get the sugar to crystallize, meaning that it will get solid and you might have difficulties to get it back, and you actually would have to do it all over again. So you just leave it like this, and in a few minutes it should actually transform into a caramel, but keep an eye on it because it can burn very, very quickly. So the crème caramel needs to be baked in a bain-marie. So you have to use a loaf tin or a foil container like this one. This one is 1.5 liters, okay? And so either that or a loaf tin that you will put in a baking dish, because we're going to add some water all around it. It needs to be immersed in water to be baked in the oven for about 45 minutes in the oven. So the milk is gently boiling now. So I'm going to stop it, because otherwise it will. And as you can see, the caramel is starting to, the sugar is starting to melt on the side. And so you need to keep an eye. And you can just, instead of using a spoon or anything, you just turn the saucepan around like this. So it can get more smooth and reach every angle of it. So it will take just a few seconds to be done. So I'll just show you. It's quite easy to make, but you can just transform very quickly into a burnt caramel. So you just have to decide when it's the right color, because we don't want it to be too light, but not too dark either, because it gives a stronger taste to it and it's not very nice. So I've just stopped the milk that I will mix with the eggs and sugar to get the custard. And once the caramel's done, I'm going to pour it here, but you'll have to be very quick and very careful because it's extremely hot. So you don't want to burn yourself. The tin is going to get, and it will set very quickly. This is what we want because we don't want actually the custard to mix with the caramel. So once we pour it, we're going to move the tin around so the caramel can reach all the sides of the containers. And so you can see now it's almost done. Can you see?
Yeah,
So
Julie.
Yes.
Yeah, it looks amazing. I mean, is it as easy as it looks?
It is.
Or you have to get it the
easy.
right.
Yes, it's quite easy. I mean, just 4 ingredients. It's gluten-free and it's dairy and it's really easy. So you just have to make sure that the caramel reach the right color and smell, because this is when you're going to decide that that's it. And that's it. It's not. The only thing is like the cheesecake. You have to bake it for 45 minutes in the oven. And then you have to take it off the oven, out of the bain-marie, let it cool for about an hour. And when it's cool to the touch, you have to place it in the fridge for a few hours, and ideally overnight. So it's actually better to make it the day before. So the caramel now is almost done. Can you see? So I'm just going to pour it very carefully in the container. Okay, I'm going to stop it now and I'll show you. So you should, let me go on this side so you'll see the color. Okay, and very quickly, because it's going to get very, very hot, you try to coat all the side of the container. It's going to set in a few seconds or few minutes. So you see, it gets very hot. So either use an oven glove and so you just want, so when you're going to flip it over the day after, you just want the caramel to spread all over the custard. So in the meantime, while the caramel is setting and getting thicker, it's already actually quite thick now. I'm just going to mix the milk with the vanilla and mix it with the egg. So gradually you're going to incorporate the milk into the egg and sugar. So that's it for the custard, and the caramel, it's almost set. It's really, really thick, and as you can see, once it's really solid, so it doesn't mix with the milk and eggs and sugar. You can pour it gradually over it. So,
Julie,
yes.
we have a question. It's not so much a practical question, but I also noticed your loved shaped pans, your heart-shaped pans there. We have Ellie asking, where do you buy such beautiful shaped pans? The heart, your pans.
I think it's quite. I think you mean the brand.
Yes.
I think
pans,
it's Prestige. Yeah. It's Prestige.
It's Prestige. Okay.
Yes. Yeah, it's quite easier, so you can pour things easily. So you'll see it's quite foamy, okay? But don't worry about it because you can skim it if you want, but I wouldn't worry because it's going to stay on the top layer of the creme caramel, and once you're going to bake it, you won't notice, especially as we're going to actually flip the creme caramel over. So it's I wouldn't worry about the foam. I'm just want to show you that the caramel is now set, because if you turn it over, nothing actually drop. Okay, and so we're just going to gradually and slowly pour the mixture in the tin. So as you can see, the caramel sits at the bottom of the container and doesn't mix with the custard, which is perfect. And so you can either do one loaf like this, but you can also make ramekins. And so you have individual creme caramel, which is easier to, and you can also flip it over, and it just, it's a nice, easier to have individually prepared. So as you can see, the foam just stays there, but once it's baked, you won't notice it. That's it. So now I'm just going to add some, so I'm going to place this in the middle and just add some hot water. Doesn't have to be boiling water, just hot water. Just to make sure that the tin or the container is immersed in water. So just about 5 to 10 centimeters, and that's enough. I'll just add a bit more. And that's perfectly fine. So now I'm just going to put it in the oven. So carefully, so if you don't trust, but if you have some dropping, it's okay. It's not a big deal.
So that creme.
So you just, yes?
No, that cream that you put in is really like it looks like real milk. It looks like milk. And milk in Hebrew is
milk,
halab.
sugar, and eggs. And you can even have it the carrot version as well, and use just soya milk, which I actually do a lot for Shabbat. And you just use soya milk, and you just increase the number of eggs and the amount of sugar just a little bit, so it sets properly. So to show you how to
I just want to say that actually, if we don't, the whole point is that it's dairy, that's chalav that we're doing on Shavuot, and chalav in Hebrew, if you take the letters of chalav, the chet, lamed, and vet, it adds up numerically to 40. The chet is 8, the lamed is 30, and the vet is 2. So if you add those numbers up, the 8, 32, and the number 2 adds up to the number 40, and that represents the 40 days that Moshe was up at Sinai. So that's another reason why we eat chalav And to see that liquid is like the milk. I mean, literally of what you're making. So that's just another reason of why we have dairy on Shavuot. Seeing that. So go ahead. So now you put it in the oven and it takes.
So you leave it in the oven for 45 minutes. Okay, so I put the timer to 45 minutes. Then you take it out of the oven and take the tin out of the bain-marie. Leave it to cool for about an hour. And when it's cold enough, you put it in the fridge for at least 4 to 5 hours. So ideally overnight, and the day after it will be perfect. But because we don't have the time to see all that, I've made one that I made it this morning. So I just want to show you how to flip it over and get the creme caramel. So you can either, so as I say, either like a loaf like this, or you can make individual ramekins like that. But to actually flip it, I'll show you. So you just use the back of a spoon and you're just going to detach the top of the flan like this. So you go all around and you make sure just that it's quite tight, attached, and hopefully we'll get a successful result. But it's always a surprise. So let's see. So you just put your dish on top, and 1, 2, 3, you turn it around, and here it is, the creme caramel. And
Wow!
if you just
Bravo! That was awesome. But
so,
let me ask you, Julie, what happened to all the water that was in the pan that you put in there? Did it all evaporate?
No, it won't evaporate. You just need to empty it. It will evaporate a little bit, but this is what we call a bain-marie. So there are few things that you cook in a bain-marie. You'll just be there. You just empty it. You don't use it. And
so you just take it out the pan. Okay.
Yes, and so if you want a mini version of it.
And do you wait till it cools down before you flip it over?
Yes, so you have to leave it in. So this one wasn't. So this one I've made it plain. Some people don't like caramel, so it's like a flan, and you can eat it like that. But you can also have it. You just pour the caramel on at the bottom of it, and you just. So you can eat it like that, or you can just flip it over as well and get just. So I'll just make it on top of it, so you'll see what it looks like. It's quite a popular dessert in France. And you can have like just an individual crème caramel. So I'll show you how it looks like inside. So it's quite creamy, but it does hold, and it's melting in the mouth. So I hope you enjoyed my demo. It's quite easy to make and don't need a lot of ingredients. So I used to make that all year round, but especially on Shavuot as well.
That looks amazing. I mean, you could see the comments coming in. Superb, magnifique. I think even our backstage producer, Edward Howard, who's a foodie himself, wants to take a dip into that. So it looks really amazing. To the beauty of how you flip that over. Now, is that as easy as it looks? Or you need to have that touch?
Give it a try. It is. It is quite
beautiful,
easy.
Beautiful. Well, thank you. You know, I don't think I could have done that at all. I would have probably just burned everything. So thank you for being here, Julie. We appreciate your effort and your time and everything that you do for the community. This is a wonderful demonstration of the crème caramel. We hope to do that for Shavuot. Thank you.
Pleasure.
And now for our next, we have, this is so amazing to see the different types of desserts that we have for Shavuot. And tonight we have our chef française is Fabienne. she has quite several years. Hello, Fabienne, welcome.
Hello.
Yes, you might recognize her as she has her own catering business as well, and she does corporate and family functions, running cooking workshops, cooking lessons, and cooking parties, and even teaches adults, teenagers, and children. And it's also, you know, you guys have been amazing during this crisis, during this epidemic. Really been there for the NHS staff, for the community, cooking and delivering to all the vulnerable as well. And it's really been so awe-inspiring, and we really appreciate all the efforts that you do. And to come here tonight to give us a little bit, a little touch of your French. Well, this is actually a cheesecake, right? This is the no-bake cheesecakes. We're having a variety of cheesecakes that Fabienne will show us tonight.
Hello, hello, welcome in my kitchen. Usually I have people in front of me, so it's very hard to speak to your camera, but I can imagine you watching me. So I am going to demonstrate tonight a no-bake cheesecake. Actually, I've done a few individual ones, and you will see what I mean in a few minutes. But as you do in very, very classic recipe of cheesecake, you have your digestive biscuits that you put in your food processor or you crumb with your hands. It actually makes your hands be very, very soft after. As you can't go to a beautician at the moment, it might be useful. So you crumb the biscuits like this, or you put it in your food processor. I will put online, or I will give the recipes to Batia, and she will put it online after. So you have all your biscuits crumbs like this. I'm going to add some melted butter. So usually for a large cheesecake, I put 250 grams of crumbs of biscuits for 125 grams of melted butter. So I'm adding a tiny bit of milk and I'm mixing. I'm mixing until you obtain like a dough type. And I'm actually going to use my hands because I love it. So I mix it. I am going to refrigerate it for about 15 minutes. Imagine it's 15 minutes later. I'm taking my biscuits that have been refrigerated, and I use a rolling pin. And I'm rolling the dough onto a mat. And I don't know if you can see, but I'm using those silicone mats. They're very useful for this type of work because it doesn't stick to your work surface. So if you don't have one, you can put some cling film on your work surface so that the dough doesn't stick to it. I'm going to use what we call like an emporte-pièce or a cookie cutter, or even like the back of a glass. And I'm going to cut some mini cheesecake. I have somewhere a spatula normally. Yes, here is my spatula. And I'm putting, so with, I use like 175 grams, 150 grams of biscuits in this small bowl and 75 grams of butter. So I obtain like some mini cheesecake like this that I put on a baking tray lined with some baking paper. And with this amount, I obtain approximately six biscuits. There you go. I'm going to bake this for 10 minutes only at 160 Celsius. Now it's already 10 minutes later, and I'm going to show you what we obtain. What we have, I'm coming back. What we have is the biscuits have like expanded a bit. So don't worry, don't panic. What we're going to do to make them a bit more perfect is to use, again, the back of a cup or the emporte-pièce again, and make them a bit more perfect. Voila. So now the surprise. I made several ones before to show you what I'm going to do. I'm just going to wash my hands. Any questions from anyone that I can see in the chat or not? Good. I will take question after. So what I've done before, I've prepared in this beautiful, beautiful tray different flavors. So I have some Lotus biscuits flavor here, and same principle with all of them. Lotus biscuits, digestive, Oreo biscuits, the darker one. Here I have some, you know, the little Petit Beurre biscuits. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to decorate them with simply some cream cheese. I've got some cream cheese here. I'm going to add a bit of vanilla paste, and I found that at Kosher Kingdom. I don't have any shares, unfortunately, at all at Kosher Kingdom, but everything you see here is from there. So I'm adding, because I've got quite a lot of cream cheese, I'm adding some vanilla paste. I'm mixing it. And I'm not going to add any sugar in my cream cheese. I've added a tiny bit of milk in my cream cheese to make it a tiny bit looser. So you can see the consistency is nice and creamy. I have here a piping bag, and I put like a nice nozzle, but you don't have to. It's easier to use a piping bag when you do this work. Like that's the, sorry, my spoon fell into the cream cheese. I'm just getting another one. It's easier to use a piping bag because if the biscuits can break a tiny bit. So I fill my piping bag, and you see I put the piping bag in a cup, and I open it this way, like that. It doesn't go all over the top of the piping bag, and it will be easier to pipe. So a bit of cream cheese, there you go. Now, the piping, always hold your piping bag from the top, not from the middle, otherwise it goes out from the top. So you have a plate like this, and you're going to start piping. So up, some. You turn over like that. So you have some cream cheese on all your mini cheesecake. And what I'm going to do now, I'm going to play a little bit with my toppings. I have some marshmallow and some little chocolate chips for the petit beurre base, just to make like a Rocky Road type. So I'm decorating them. I have mini Oreos on the Oreo ones.
Hi, Fabienne. That looks amazing.
I have in
First of all, we have a couple of questions going on.
Yes, tell me.
First of all, how do you fast forward time? How you 10 minutes and 15 minutes? You have to give us that trick.
You prep. Prep.
It's all about prep.
Preparation. This is
right.
the
secret
of the job is the preparation.
You're giving us all your secrets of the job, because now we see how you get it so perfectly with your little cookie cutter. So we appreciate you giving us all the tips.
Exactly. It's only like little things, really. I would say 75% of catering or cooking lesson is preparation, is the prep before.
Like anything. I like anything, really. You know? So we do have a question, is what kind of cream cheese are you using?
Philadelphia.
Just regular Philadelphia cream cheese.
Regular Philadelphia cream cheese. There are no fair at Kosher Kingdom at the moment.
Yes. So not the whipped one, but so you're not like not the whipped ones. Like the flat, hard.
No, regular cream cheese. I loosen it with a bit of milk.
Ah.
It can be a tiny bit too hard if you don't loosen it with a bit of milk. So
that's the trick. Another little secret you're teaching us.
Other questions?
No, I think that's all for now. So we'll let you continue on. Thank you. Sorry for interruption.
So I have also some. I must apologize. I'm French. I love Nutella. I know that I'm going to have a lot of people hating me after this. I can't leave, and my children can't leave without Nutella. So I'm afraid I'm having a Nutella one, and I'm using again a piping bag. Piping this. I don't know if you can see what I'm doing. I'm piping this over there like this. And I'm going to decorate with a few roasted hazelnuts. By the way, you can have, and I think it's fun on Shavuot, you can have a station with all your piping bags and your toppings and your cooking stuff like that. And I think people can make their own. I think this is quite a nice idea as well. I have a piping bag with some Biscoff, and I'm piping it on the Biscoff one.
We couldn't hear you exactly before. Your sound was a little muffled.
Sorry?
Your sound was a little muffled earlier when you were showing us.
Sorry. What didn't you hear? Look,
we heard you like Nutella because you're French, and then
so maybe I'm going to have some people hating me. And, I can't live without Nutella. So what I did with my piping bag, I piped a tiny bit of Nutella, and I decorated with some roasted hazelnuts. Obviously, you don't have to use Nutella. You can use Cadbury spread. You can use. You have some like alternative. Apparently, Ferrero said that they're not using palm oil now. So on the one that has.
Okay. We have another question. I think there was another question. Yeah. Oh. How much cream?
I'm going to send all the recipes. I promise. I will send them, and you can put them on the
Facebook.
But
yeah.
Here
Thank you. Yeah, recipes, so Julie's and Fabienne's recipe posted.
Yeah, on my tub here, I've got quite a large amount because I'm making about 5 cheesecakes for Thursday. So so I'm going to use it. So I'm going to like cut some little biscuits, Lotus biscuits, and I think in the last 2 ones I'm going to use some strawberries just to give like a little like a fruity flavor. So strawberries on this one. And on the last one, I'm going to use other type of strawberries for children, the Tagada Haribo strawberries. Because you need, Shavuot is also about having fun, huh? And I will decorate my plate with a bit of flowers, with a few flowers. So just to make it a bit pretty and a bit more Shavuot style. Oops. Et voilà, I'll show you in a minute. I will tip my plate over. And you have a selection of cheesecakes. Voila, voila.
Wow, magnifique. And they're mini ones. So you could have they're mini ones that you could have a taste of each of them. So yeah. It's so beautiful that you added that little flowers. Do you know why we have the flowers?
Because the Mount Sinai was covered of flowers.
That's right. It blossomed. Very beautiful. And interestingly enough, Har Sinai, the reason why, it's, Har Sinai, our sages tell us that the reason why it was chosen was because it was the lowest of them all, right? It was the humblest, right? All the other mountains, like we tell the little kids a story that each of the mountains wanted to be the one to have the Torah on it. And Har Sinai really is it was the lowest and the humblest of them all, and it's really the message of Shavuot. But at the same time, it's a mountain, it's a har, right? We have the har that you shouldn't be completely low and feel like nothing, right? We still have to be a mountain, but at the same time, we have the Sinai that we have to remember the Sinai, the modesty and the humbleness that the mountain had. So this is the balance that we have in our lives, the Har and the Sinai. And that's what really Shavuot is also a beautiful message that we have today. So thank you, Fabienne. That was a wonderful.
Can I just add something?
Sure.
When you cut the biscuits once they are cooked, sometimes you end up having like quite a lot of crumbs. Please do not waste the crumbs. Mix them with some milk. Bake it for 5-10 minutes and then make a very large cheesecake with the crumbs. Do not waste anything.
Or you can crumble. Can you sprinkle it on top as well?
Exactly, of course.
Well, see, I have.
Look at that. I'm doing it right as you speak.
Yeah, there you go. Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, so we thank you so much. Thank you so much, Fabienne. Thank you for your time and your expertise, and we look forward to seeing those recipes up on the Facebook page once you send it to me. Thank you. Thank you all for joining us today, this evening, with the incredible French chef right around the corner who shared some very recipes with us. The Shavuot, getting us ready, getting us in the mood. It's really delicious. And while we know, I mentioned in the beginning, the reason why we eat dairy, one of the main reasons, there are quite a few, but one of the reasons is that because Moshe really took that first food that he had was from a Jewish witness, from his own mother, and he only wanted to eat that Jewish mother's milk. To the message that we have today is the Shavuot, is that we want to send that message, that value, the deep value that we get from Sinai, and that we're passing on to our next generation. And yet, at the same time, we also want to remember the two rows of offerings that we have, that we gave in the temple time. Why do some people, this is also customary to eat dairy, but it's also to eat some of the meat as well. We have some people who have a real meat as well. And the idea is to have both loaves, to represent both loaves of bread, because we need to, on Shabbat, we have the 2 loaves of bread, right? Every Shabbat, we have 2 loaves of bread. So what are we remembering? What's the difference now to remember those 2 loaves that we offer? Because the loaves of Shabbat is really about the double portion that we received in the desert, the man. And, if we don't have to really eat, whatever we eat, we eat. But at the end of the day, with Shavuot is about, remember, the 2 offerings of bread. And to ensure, to guarantee that we eat, that we partake of those 2 loaves of bread, is that we have to have 2 separate meals. We have to have the milk meal with 1 bread, because the utensils might get mixed up with the meat. And so we have 1 separate milk with 1 bread. And then we pause, we rinse our mouth, and have another meat meal with our next bread, with our next loaf. And this way we really partake in both offerings, the both loaves of bread. And by doing this mitzvah, we also commemorate the offering of that was done in Shavuot during the temple time. So with the milk that we have from our Jewish mothers, may we pass that down to continue on the heritage to our children, and really enjoy and teach and pass down the Jewish values that we have for the next generation. So enjoy your cheesecake, enjoy your dairy food, and have a wonderful, wonderful Yom Tov. That's the man.